Welcome to the world of ancient wonders. Tonight, we begin our systematic investigation into the monumental construction of Machu Picchu. Now settle in, my friends. Find that cozy spot, wrap yourself in your favorite blanket, and let your worries drift away like leaves on a gentle stream. Allow yourself to sink deeper into comfort. Where are you tuning in from this evening, and what time is it on your clock? Is it a quiet afternoon, a bustling morning, or perhaps a late-night contemplation in your perfectly organized, or maybe delightfully unorganized schedule? Wherever you are, know you're in good company. If you're enjoying this journey, consider subscribing so you don't miss a single step. Our exploration begins with the very first whispers of an idea, the careful selection of a place, and the intricate planning that laid the foundation for this incredible citadel. Imagine the thought, the vision that went into choosing this dramatic landscape. The Andes Mountains rise like colossal sleeping giants, their peaks perpetually veiled in mist, their flanks etched by time and countless seasons. Within this immense and often unforgiving landscape, the Inca people, a civilization of profound ingenuity, sought to establish a place of power, a sanctuary that would stand as a testament to their connection with the earth and sky. This series embarks on a journey, a systematic unveiling of how such a remarkable settlement came to be, exploring the meticulous thought and sheer effort that transformed a daunting mountain into a jewel of human achievement. It is a story of how decisions made in council, driven by a deep understanding of the land, began the process of creating a citadel whispered about in hushed tones even today. The very first step, the crucial phase of choosing where to build, was not a matter of chance, but a carefully considered strategy, a dance with the formidable environment. Inca planners, learned individuals steeped in the lore of the mountains and the practicalities of survival, looked for specific attributes that would ensure both security and sustenance. They surveyed the terrain, seeking naturally defensible positions, places where sheer drops and steep inclines offered protection against any potential adversaries, and where the land itself could provide a barrier. The process involved meticulous observation of the slopes, assessing their stability and the potential for constructing enduring structures, always with an eye toward how the natural contours could be incorporated into the design rather than fought against.
Further criteria guided their selection. Proximity to essential resources was paramount. A settlement, no matter how secure, could not thrive without access to clean water and arable land. Planners would have scouted for reliable springs and streams, noting how water flowed down the mountainsides, a vital clue for both immediate needs and future systems. They also considered the quality of the surrounding stone, noting the abundance of granite and andesite, durable materials readily available from the very mountains they intended to inhabit. The initial assessment of these basic elements, the stone underfoot and the water in the streams, formed the bedrock upon which more elaborate plans would eventually be laid. This initial phase required a dedicated planning cadre, a group of individuals tasked with translating the empire's needs and aspirations into tangible objectives. These were not mere laborers, but men of knowledge, likely architects, engineers, and spiritual leaders who understood the emperor's vision and the practical challenges of realizing it. Their role was to interpret the landscape, to see not just rock and soil, but potential, and to identify a location that met a complex set of requirements. This organized approach to planning underscores the sophisticated administrative structure of the Inca state, where even the most fundamental decisions were made with foresight and a deep sense of purpose. The challenge, then, was finding a singular location that offered this delicate balance: defensibility, access to resources, and suitability for construction. A site that was too exposed would invite attack, while one too remote might prove difficult to supply. A location too rugged could make building prohibitively difficult, yet one too gentle might lack the natural defenses the Inca valued. The Inca planners approached this challenge through exhaustive surveying and a profound understanding of the terrain. Moving across the landscape, observing, measuring, and discussing, much like skilled surveyors mapping out new territory today, only with far more profound implications for the future. Early scholarly thought frequently highlights the strategic importance of such mountainous locations for Inca settlements. These high-altitude strongholds offered clear advantages in terms of defense and surveillance, allowing a relatively smaller population to control vast territories. The ability to see for miles in every direction from these elevated positions was not merely tactical. It held spiritual significance as well, placing settlements closer to the heavens and the powerful deities associated with the sun and mountains. This strategic imperative, combined with the practical considerations of site selection, shaped the very beginnings of the remarkable citadel that would eventually emerge. With the initial site identified, the true work of conceptualizing the settlement began, a process of transforming a wild mountainside into a structured, functional home for a significant population. This was not simply about clearing land. It was about envisioning a complete city, a holistic design that integrated architecture with the dramatic natural environment, a hallmark of Inca planning. The planners moved beyond the broad strokes of site selection to the finer details of what would actually be built, considering how the various elements of the citadel would interact and serve their purpose. The conceptual planning stages involved envisioning distinct functional zones, areas for dwelling, spaces for agriculture, sites for religious observance, and sections dedicated to defense. They considered how these zones would be laid out, how they would interconnect, and how people and resources would move between them. This required a deep understanding of spatial organization, a skill honed over generations of building diverse settlements across the Andean region. Preliminary considerations for managing the abundant water and establishing internal circulation routes were also part of this vital conceptual phase, laying the groundwork for the complex systems that would eventually define the site. This intricate envisioning process demanded skilled surveyors and architects, individuals within the Inca hierarchy who possessed the knowledge to translate abstract ideas into practical blueprints. These experts were responsible for charting the course of streets, the placement of buildings, and the routes of water channels, all while respecting the existing topography. Their task was to create a coherent vision for a complex city on an extremely steep and uneven mountainside, a challenge that necessitated innovative spatial planning and a keen eye for how to best utilize the natural features of the chosen location. As these initial plans took shape, the focus began to shift towards the tangible materials that would bring the vision to life. The surrounding mountains, already identified for their suitability, were the primary source of these building materials, particularly the abundant granite and andesite. These stones, chosen for their strength and durability, would soon be quarried and shaped, marking the transition from conceptualization to the physical realization of the Inca masterpiece. The planners had to consider not only the aesthetic qualities of these materials, but also their weight, their hardness, and how they would best perform in the demanding environment of the high Andes. The challenge of designing a complex city on such challenging terrain was immense, requiring solutions that addressed both the practicalities of construction and the inherent difficulties of the landscape. The Inca approach
was to work with the mountain, not against it, using its natural features to their advantage. This meant carefully integrating structures into the slopes, creating stable foundations, and devising ingenious ways to navigate the steep gradients, all of which were informed by the detailed conceptual planning that had taken place. This careful consideration of the physical constraints and the innovative solutions developed would ultimately define the unique character of the site. This systematic approach to site selection and conceptualization laid the essential foundation for everything that followed, a testament to the Incas' foresight and organizational prowess. Their ability to meticulously plan and envision such a complex undertaking, from the grandest strategic objectives down to the smallest detail of water flow, speaks volumes about their advanced civilization. The careful selection of a defensible and resource-rich location, coupled with a clear architectural vision, set the stage for the monumental construction efforts that would soon begin to transform the mountain. This detailed planning process, focusing on the strategic and conceptual groundwork, highlights a critical aspect of any large-scale undertaking: the importance of a well-defined vision and a systematic approach to its realization. The Inca planners understood that the success of their citadel depended not just on the skill of the builders, but on the wisdom of the decisions made long before the first stone was ever moved. Their methodical approach, grounded in a deep understanding of the land and their own societal capabilities, ensured that the formidable challenges ahead would be met with thoughtful and effective solutions, a recurring pattern in successful human endeavors throughout history. The vision had been sketched, the site chosen, and now the focus turned to the very substance of the future citadel, the stone that lay waiting in the earth. This transition from planning to the acquisition of materials marked the beginning of the arduous physical labor, the turning of raw earth into the ordered architecture that would define the site. The mountains, which had initially offered a promising canvas, now presented their bounty, and the work of extracting it would require immense effort and a growing understanding of the rock itself. The crucial initial phase of site selection, a process steeped in strategic thinking and practical necessity, had been completed. The planners, the learned individuals within the Inca hierarchy, had identified a location that offered both natural defenses and access to vital resources, a place where a significant settlement could be established. This careful deliberation, the systematic surveying of the landscape, and the consideration of geological stability formed the bedrock upon which the entire project would be built, demonstrating a profound understanding of how to work with the formidable Andean environment. The next phase, the conceptualization of what would be built, involved envisioning the layout of functional zones, the integration of architecture with nature, and the development of water management systems. This intricate planning demanded skilled surveyors and architects who translated abstract ideas into practical blueprints, addressing the challenge of designing a complex city on a steep mountainside. The surrounding mountains were recognized as the source of primary building materials, granite and andesite. Their properties carefully considered from the outset, hinting at the immense logistical and engineering feats to come. The sheer scale of the undertaking, from selecting the perfect peak to envisioning the final structure, was a testament to the Incas' sophisticated organizational capacity. This systematic approach, where every decision was carefully weighed and every potential challenge anticipated, allowed them to embark on projects of unparalleled ambition. The whispers of a lost city, once mere legends, were now beginning to solidify into a concrete plan, a promise of a magnificent citadel to be carved from the very heart of the Andes. These elements of strategic site selection, meticulous conceptualization, and an understanding of material potential demonstrate recurring patterns in human civilization. The selection of a suitable mountain perch, a place offering both shelter and commanding views, had been a meticulous undertaking. Now, with the chosen heights identified, the true challenge began, transforming a raw, undeveloped vision into a concrete plan. This was not merely about drawing lines on a surface, but about understanding how the land itself could be reshaped and utilized, a process that demanded the keenest minds among the Inca planners. They understood that a great city, a true heart for their empire's northern reaches, could not be imposed upon the landscape, but must, in a profound way, grow from it. The planning cadre, a group likely composed of seasoned architects and experienced administrators, began by meticulously mapping the contours of the chosen peaks. Their understanding of geometry and their ability to visualize three-dimensional space were paramount. Sources suggest that these planners considered the site not just as a location, but as a dynamic environment, factoring in prevailing winds, patterns of rainfall, and the subtle shifts of the earth. This holistic approach meant that every potential building site, every pathway, and every agricultural plot was conceived in relation to its neighbors and the overarching topography. This detailed conceptualization involved envisioning distinct functional zones that would serve the needs of a complex community. Areas were designated for residences, for the cultivation of crops, for sacred ceremonies, and for defense. The interconnectedness of these zones was a key consideration, with smooth circulation between them being essential for the efficient functioning of the citadel. Preliminary thoughts on how water would be channeled and managed, a critical element in any settlement, also began to inform the layout, with natural springs and drainage lines playing a significant role in shaping the proposed city's form. The availability of building materials, primarily the abundant granite of the surrounding mountains, was an initial consideration that heavily influenced the scale and design possibilities. The planners would have assessed the types of stone present and their suitability for various construction purposes, from massive foundation blocks to finely dressed facing stones. This assessment of the mountain's bounty was not just about quantity, but also about quality, as different stones possessed varying degrees of hardness and aesthetic properties, each suited to specific applications within the planned structures. The sheer scale of the undertaking presented a significant challenge: how to design a complex, multi-layered city upon an extremely steep and often uneven mountainside. This required an innovative approach to spatial planning, pushing the boundaries of conventional architectural thinking. The planners had to devise ways to create stable building platforms, to integrate structures seamlessly with the natural inclines, and to ensure that the city would be both functional and aesthetically harmonious with its dramatic surroundings. Early scholarly debates often centered on the question of whether the entire site was conceived as a single grand project from its inception, or if it evolved in stages, with each phase responding to the needs and successes of the last. However, the coherence of the finished citadel suggests a substantial degree of overarching design, even if specific elements were refined during construction. This initial planning phase, then, was not a rigid blueprint, but a flexible framework guiding the immense efforts that were soon to commence. The functional zones required careful placement to ensure both efficiency and a sense of order. Residential areas were envisioned to be close to the agricultural terraces to facilitate daily work, while religious and ceremonial structures were often placed on higher, more prominent ground. This spatial segregation was not arbitrary. It reflected a sophisticated understanding of how to create a cohesive living environment that catered to the diverse needs of its inhabitants, from the mundane to the sacred. Water management, always a critical aspect of Inca engineering, was integrated into the earliest conceptual stages of planning. The inherent challenges of the mountainous terrain, with its steep slopes and potential for erosion, demanded a robust system for collecting, channeling, and distributing water. Planners considered the natural pathways of water flow, identifying potential sources and designing networks of channels and drains that would not only supply the citadel, but also manage the heavy rainfall characteristic of the region. The preliminary consideration of the primary building materials, the granite that formed the very bones of the mountains, played a crucial role in shaping the architectural concepts. The sheer weight and density of these stones dictated certain construction methods and influenced the overall scale of the structures. The planners understood that the design must respect the nature of the material, working with its strengths to create enduring forms that would withstand the test of time and the elements.
The role of expert surveyors and architects within the Inca system cannot be overstated in this phase. These individuals were responsible for translating the broad vision into a more concrete, actionable plan. Their knowledge of surveying techniques, likely involving plumb bobs, leveling tools, and careful observation of the stars, allowed them to translate abstract ideas into tangible instructions for the vast labor force. They were the bridge between concept and execution. The challenge of designing a complex city on such a precarious mountainside necessitated a deep understanding of structural principles and an inventive approach to spatial organization. Creating usable flat areas required extensive terracing and foundation work, all of which had to be planned in advance to ensure stability and prevent landslides. The planners had to anticipate how each stone, each wall, and each structure would interact with the mountain and with each other. This meticulous planning ensured that when the workers finally arrived, they would have a clear, albeit complex, set of guidelines to follow. The vision that had been so carefully nurtured on paper, or perhaps through more tactile models, was now ready to meet the physical reality of the mountain. The success of the entire undertaking hinged on the thoroughness and foresight applied during these critical conceptual stages, a testament to the advanced organizational capabilities of the Inca civilization. The very purpose of the site, a subject of ongoing scholarly discussion, would have heavily influenced the planning decisions. Whether intended as a royal estate for the Emperor Pachacuti, a sacred religious center, a strategic military outpost, or a combination of these, the primary function would dictate the scale, the prominence of certain structures, and the overall layout. The early debates among scholars about the site's intended purpose reflect the complexity inherent in interpreting such a grand and multifaceted construction. The architects and planners were faced with the formidable task of integrating the city's design with the natural environment, a core principle of Inca construction. They sought to minimize disruption to the landscape while maximizing the use of its natural features, such as strategic vantage points and sources of water.
This symbiotic relationship between the built environment and its natural setting was not an afterthought, but a fundamental aspect of the design process from its very beginning. The initial conceptualization phase also involved considering how the various components of the city would be interconnected. Pathways, stairways, and plazas were designed to facilitate movement and interaction between different areas, creating a cohesive and functional whole. The planners had to anticipate the flow of people and resources, ensuring that the city's internal circulation systems were efficient and intuitive, even on challenging terrain. This comprehensive planning allowed for a systematic approach to the immense logistical and engineering challenges ahead. By carefully considering every aspect of the site's design, from the smallest drainage channel to the placement of the grandest temples, the Inca planners laid the groundwork for one of history's most remarkable architectural achievements. Such foresight and meticulous attention to detail reveal the deep sophistication that underpinned the construction of this mountain citadel. Such integrated design principles reveal the complexity of historical planning. The air in the Andes, when one ventures high into its embrace, often carries a crispness, a clarity that sharpens the senses. Yet, even in such pristine environments, the practicalities of survival and construction demand immense effort. Following the careful selection and conceptualization of this mountain refuge, the most immediate and daunting task became the acquisition of the very substance that would give it form: stone. The planners had identified the general area, envisioned the layout, but now the raw material, the foundation of their ambition, had to be wrestled from the earth itself. This is where the true physical labor began, a systematic endeavor requiring both brute strength and a surprisingly refined understanding of the mountain's granite heart. The process of quarrying these colossal blocks was a marvel of organized effort, achieved with tools that, to modern eyes, seem remarkably simple. Imagine, if you will, the sheer scale of the task, to detach massive pieces of solid rock from the mountainside. The primary method involved identifying natural fissures and weaknesses within the granite bedrock. Into these cracks, skilled workers would repeatedly hammer hard, rounded stones, essentially acting as primitive chisels. Once a fissure was widened sufficiently, wooden wedges would be driven in. These wedges, perhaps made from resilient local wood, were then soaked with water. As the wood absorbed moisture, it would swell, exerting immense outward pressure that, over time and with repeated application, could split even the hardest stone. It was a slow, deliberate process, requiring patience and an intimate knowledge of how the earth itself yielded to persistent force. The selection of the granite was not arbitrary. While the entire citadel would be fashioned from stone, specific structures, particularly those meant to bear great weight or serve ceremonial purposes, demanded the finest, most uniform blocks. Workers would meticulously examine the exposed rock faces, looking for seams of particularly dense and evenly colored granite. The quality of the stone was paramount. Inferior pieces might be used for retaining walls or internal fill, but the primary building blocks for temples, palaces, and major walls needed to be sound, strong, and visually pleasing. This initial assessment, a fundamental step in the material analysis, ensured that the future city would not only stand, but also endure. The effort involved in this initial scouting and selection was, in turn, guided by the experienced eyes of overseers who understood the long-term structural needs of the project. The labor force dedicated to this demanding work was organized into specialized groups. There were the strong, tireless individuals who wielded the pounding stones and drove the wedges, their muscles honed by years of similar tasks. Then there were those responsible for preparing the larger wooden wedges and ensuring a steady supply of water for the expansion process. Overseeing these efforts were individuals whose roles involved assessing the best places to begin extraction, ensuring the safety of the workers by understanding the stability of the rock face, and managing the logistics of moving the quarried blocks from the quarry face to the initial staging areas. This division of labor, a hallmark of efficient organization, meant that each task was performed by those best suited to it, maximizing output and minimizing wasted effort. The sheer challenge of breaking and shaping these massive granite blocks with such basic tools cannot be overstated. It was a testament to the Incas' perseverance and their ability to innovate within their technological landscape. There were no metal drills or explosive charges here, only stone, wood, water, and human ingenuity. The process demanded an immense amount of time, with each block requiring hours, sometimes days, of focused effort to free it from its original bed. The constant percussion of stone on stone created a rhythmic soundtrack to the labor, a deep, percussive beat that echoed through the mountain valleys. The feel of the rough granite, gritty and unyielding, would have been a constant sensation for these workers, a physical reminder of the material they were transforming.
One must imagine the scene. On the steep, rugged slopes, teams of workers toiled under the clear mountain skies. The sounds would have been a symphony of stone striking stone, a persistent, measured clang that was the very pulse of construction. The rough texture of the granite would have been felt by every hand, a tangible connection to the earth being reshaped. Sweat would have beaded on foreheads and trickled down faces, not from oppressive heat, but from the sheer physical exertion required for each swing, each hammered wedge, each careful measurement. The workers, often clad in simple woven tunics, would have moved with a practiced efficiency, their bodies accustomed to the demanding labor and the challenging terrain. This physical exertion was, of course, accompanied by a constant need for sustenance and rest. The logistics of feeding and housing a large workforce involved considerable planning. Supplies of maize, quinoa, dried meats, and chicha, a fermented corn drink that was a staple of Inca life, had to be transported to the quarry sites. Simple temporary shelters, perhaps made from woven reeds and thatched roofs, would have been erected to provide respite from the elements. The sheer scale of the operation meant that these workers were not just isolated individuals, but part of a larger, coordinated effort, with supervisors ensuring that the needs of the labor force were met, a critical aspect of the labor organization that underpinned the entire undertaking. The selection of the quarry sites themselves was a crucial technical decision, driven by more than just the presence of suitable stone. Proximity to the intended construction zone was a significant factor, as minimizing the distance for transporting the heavy blocks would save invaluable time and labor. Furthermore, the geological stability of the quarry area was paramount. An unstable face could lead to dangerous collapses, jeopardizing the workers and the project. Geologists, or those with similar expertise within the Inca hierarchy, would have assessed the integrity of the rock formations, identifying areas where blocks could be safely extracted. This careful site assessment, a foundational step often overlooked in simpler explanations, ensured that the initial material acquisition was as safe and efficient as possible. The selection of the right type of stone also played a role in how structures would ultimately be perceived. While the primary building material for many of the more important structures at Machu Picchu was andesite, a volcanic stone, the extraction of granite for specific foundation elements or decorative features would have required careful consideration of its properties. Granite, known for its hardness and durability, would have been ideal for the base courses of walls, providing a solid, unyielding foundation that could bear significant loads. The meticulous matching of stone type to structural requirement was a sophisticated aspect of their material science, demonstrating a practical understanding of engineering principles long before such terms were formalized. The challenge of breaking and shaping massive blocks was magnified by the need for precision, even at this early stage. While the most intricate shaping would occur closer to the final placement, initial dressing at the quarry was still necessary.
This involved using smaller pounding stones and possibly rough grinding techniques to remove protrusions and create more manageable shapes. The goal was not necessarily to achieve perfectly smooth surfaces at this point, but to reduce the overall weight and bulk of the blocks and to begin the process of defining their basic form. This incremental approach to shaping, moving from rough extraction to more refined dressing, was a systematic way to tackle the immense task ahead. The question of how these rough-hewn blocks were then prepared for the next stage of their journey, transport, is a fascinating one. It involved not just detaching them from the bedrock, but also beginning the process of making them amenable to movement. This might have included creating deliberate fracture lines or ensuring that the quarried blocks had relatively flat surfaces on one side to facilitate their initial handling. The sheer weight of the materials meant that even minor adjustments made at the quarry could have a significant impact on the ease of subsequent transportation. Therefore, this phase of quarrying was intrinsically linked to the logistical challenges that would follow, demonstrating a holistic approach to the construction process. Indeed, the skill of the stoneworkers was not solely in their strength, but in their understanding of the stone itself. They learned to recognize the subtle variations in texture and grain that would dictate how a block might break or how it could be best shaped. This intimate knowledge, passed down through generations or developed through years of apprenticeship, was crucial. It meant that the extraction process was not simply a matter of brute force, but a carefully executed operation guided by accumulated wisdom. This deep understanding of their primary material formed a critical, though often unseen, pillar of the entire construction endeavor, ensuring that the raw materials were as suited as possible for their destined purpose. This systematic process of quarrying, from identifying the rock to detaching and preparing the blocks, was the indispensable first physical step in the monumental undertaking of building Machu Picchu. It was a phase marked by relentless labor, meticulous planning, and an intimate relationship with the very mountains that would become the city's foundation. The stones quarried here, rough and raw, held within them the promise of the magnificent citadel to come, a promise to be fulfilled through further stages of transport, shaping, and assembly, each demanding its own unique blend of human effort and ingenuity. This examination of the initial extraction process illuminates the foundational efforts required to harness the raw power of the earth for human ambition. From the quarry sites, vast granite blocks, some weighing many tons, were now ready for their arduous journey to the chosen citadel. The sheer scale of this undertaking, moving such immense weight across the rugged, high-altitude landscape of the Andes, presented a colossal logistical challenge for the Inca planners and their workforce. They understood that the strength and stability of the future city depended not only on the quality of the stone, but also on the ingenuity applied to its transportation, a testament to their systematic approach to grand construction projects. To accomplish this, teams of strong laborers, meticulously organized, would prepare the path ahead of each major stone. This involved clearing obstructions, leveling uneven ground, and creating a prepared track, often using additional smaller stones to smooth the way. They would then employ sturdy timbers, shaped into cylindrical rollers, carefully placed beneath the massive block. This required immense foresight, ensuring the rollers were positioned just right to bear the colossal weight and allow for movement, a precise calculation of physics applied in a practical, hands-on manner. Strong plant-based ropes, likely made from tough fibers such as ichu grass or other local reeds, were the primary means of pulling these immense stones. Groups of men, numbering potentially dozens or even hundreds for the largest blocks, would grip these thick ropes, their muscles straining. They would pull in unison, their efforts guided by clear vocal commands from overseers who directed the pace and the precise angle of the pull. This synchronized effort, a powerful display of collective human will, was crucial for inching the stones forward. The challenge of moving these multi-ton blocks over steep, uneven terrain without the assistance of wheels or draft animals was immense, demanding a deep understanding of leverage and force. Workers would use long, stout wooden poles as levers to nudge stones and adjust their position, particularly when transitioning across dips or inclines. This interplay of rolling, pulling, and leveraging was a constant, back-breaking effort, each movement requiring careful coordination to prevent the stone from veering off course or becoming stuck. Along the way, the sounds that would have filled the mountain air were those of exertion and focused labor. The rhythmic creak of wooden rollers groaning under the strain, punctuated by the sharp calls of the overseers, would have been constant. The deep grunts of men pulling together in unison, their breath misting in the cooler mountain air, would have mingled with the crunch of footsteps and the scraping of stone against the prepared path. A fine dust would have been kicked up by the hundreds of feet, settling on the rough-hewn surfaces of the blocks and the worker's skin. These transport routes themselves were marvels of planning, often following natural contours of the land where possible, but also requiring considerable modification. Where slopes were particularly steep, they might have constructed temporary ramps or very gradual inclines, using packed earth and smaller stones to create a less severe gradient. The selection of these routes was a critical decision, made by individuals with a keen understanding of topography and the practical limits of human and material capabilities, ensuring the safest and most efficient path. The logistics extended beyond the physical act of moving the stone. They involved the sustenance and organization of the large teams required. These workers, skilled in their respective tasks, would have been supported with food, water, and shelter, demonstrating the highly organized state apparatus behind such monumental projects. The efficient deployment of labor, ensuring the right number of people were in the right place at the right time, was as crucial as the tools themselves. Consider the sheer ingenuity required to engineer such a system. Without the benefit of pulleys or complex machinery, the Inca relied on fundamental principles of physics and a deep reservoir of human power, applied with remarkable discipline. Each successful movement of a stone represented a victory of planning over immense natural obstacles, a testament to the meticulous preparation that went into every stage of construction. This process of transport was not a singular event, but a continuous, staggered operation, with multiple blocks being moved simultaneously towards different points of the emerging citadel. The careful coordination across these parallel efforts, ensuring that materials arrived where and when needed for the stonemasons, highlights a sophisticated level of project management. It was a vast, interlocking system where each moving part played a crucial role in the overall construction. The contrast between the rough, unworked stone pulled from the quarry and the eventual precision they would achieve at the building site is striking. Yet this stage of transport was fundamental. It was the necessary intermediary step, the bridge between raw material and architectural form. The raw power and coordinated effort displayed here laid the groundwork for the finer, more intricate work that would soon commence. This systematic approach to moving materials, transforming a raw geological resource into building blocks ready for assembly, underscores a core principle of Inca engineering, that grand visions are realized through meticulous planning and dedicated, organized labor. The success of the citadel hinged on mastering not just the shaping of stone, but the very act of bringing it to its intended place. The immense, carefully prepared granite blocks, having successfully navigated the challenging terrain, now stand ready at the construction site, awaiting the skilled hands of the masons. This critical phase of transport exemplifies how resourceful human groups leverage their environment and collective strength to achieve monumental goals. As the raw stone blocks arrived at the construction zones, the careful work of shaping them for their eventual place began. Before the remarkable interlocking of irregular shapes, a foundational skill was mastery over simpler forms. This involved preparing surfaces for more basic masonry, often referred to as ashlar masonry, where blocks were worked into more regular, though not yet precisely fitted shapes. The early stages of construction relied on the patient application of brute force and abrasive materials to transform quarried roughage into workable building components. It was a process that demanded immense perseverance, transforming the jagged edges of mountain rock into surfaces that promised strength and order. The initial dressing of the stone required a specific progression of tools, starting with the very stones used to extract them. Larger, rounded pounding stones, often river-worn and dense, were the first instruments for shaping. These were used to chip away at the larger blocks, breaking off rough protrusions and beginning to define a more manageable form. Following this, smaller, harder stone hammers, perhaps made from basalt or obsidian, allowed for more detailed work. Historical records suggest that a combination of repeated percussive blows and the diligent use of sand mixed with water acted as a natural abrasive, gradually smoothing the stone surfaces. This methodical approach was crucial for creating walls that were not only sturdy, but also possessed a certain visual harmony. This methodical preparation of stone demanded a specialized group within the workforce. These were the individuals we might call stone dressers, masons in the early stages of their craft. Their hands became accustomed to the texture of granite and andesite, learning to gauge the force needed to chip without shattering the stone, and understanding how the abrasive slurry could polish surfaces to a surprising degree of smoothness. These were not the artists of the perfectly interlocking joints yet, but rather the skilled laborers who prepared the raw materials for the more intricate stages of building, laying the groundwork for the sophisticated techniques that would later define Inca stonework. The primary challenge at this juncture was achieving consistent, smooth surfaces across countless blocks, using only the limited toolkits available. It was a task where precision was paramount, but the tools themselves imposed certain limitations. The process involved a constant trial and error, observing how different types of stone responded to the hammering and grinding, and adapting techniques accordingly. The solution lay not in technological advancement, but in the sheer, organized application of human effort and time, meticulously chipping, grinding, and polishing each piece until it met the required standard. This sustained dedication turned rough-hewn stone into a material ready for its designated purpose. This painstaking work laid the groundwork for the development of different masonry styles across the Inca Empire. Early theories suggest that the simpler forms of dressed stone, like those found in more utilitarian structures or at earlier sites, represented a developmental phase. As skills and understanding grew, the techniques for shaping stone became more refined. Scholars continue to debate the exact timeline and geographical spread of these evolving masonry styles, but the foundational work of dressing stone with pounding stones and abrasives was a universal starting point for many Inca construction projects, including those at this remarkable mountain citadel. With the blocks brought to the construction site, the careful work of shaping them for their eventual place began. Before the remarkable interlocking of irregular shapes, a foundational skill was mastery over simpler forms. This involved preparing surfaces for more basic masonry, often referred to as ashlar masonry, where blocks were worked into more regular, though not yet precisely fitted, shapes. The early stages of construction relied on the patient application of brute force and abrasive materials to transform quarried roughage into workable building components. It was a process that demanded immense perseverance, transforming the jagged edges of mountain rock into surfaces that promised strength and order. The initial dressing of the stone required a specific progression of tools, starting with the very stones used to extract them. Large, rounded pounding stones, often river-worn and dense, were the first instruments for shaping. These were used to chip away at the larger blocks, breaking off rough protrusions and beginning to define a more manageable form. Following this, smaller, harder stone hammers, perhaps made from basalt or obsidian, allowed for more detailed work. Historical records suggest that a combination of repeated percussive blows and the diligent use of sand mixed with water acted as a natural abrasive, gradually smoothing the stone surfaces. This methodical approach was crucial for creating walls that were not only sturdy, but also possessed a certain visual harmony. This methodical preparation of stone demanded a specialized group within the workforce. These were the individuals we might call stone dressers, masons in the early stages of their craft. Their hands became accustomed to the texture of granite and andesite, learning to gauge the force needed to chip without shattering the stone, and understanding how the abrasive slurry could polish surfaces to a surprising degree of smoothness. These were not the artists of the perfectly interlocking joints yet, but rather the skilled laborers who prepared the raw materials for the more intricate stages of building, laying the groundwork for the sophisticated techniques that would later define Inca stonework. The primary challenge at this juncture was achieving consistent, smooth surfaces across countless blocks using only the limited toolkits available. It was a task where precision was paramount, but the tools themselves imposed certain limitations. The process involved a constant trial and error, observing how different types of stone responded to the hammering and grinding, and adapting techniques accordingly. The solution lay not in technological advancement, but in the sheer, organized application of human effort and time, meticulously chipping, grinding, and polishing each piece until it met the required standard. This sustained dedication turned rough-hewn stone into a material ready for its designated purpose. This painstaking work laid the groundwork for the development of different masonry styles across the Inca Empire. Early theories suggest that the simpler forms of dressed stone, like those found in more utilitarian structures or at earlier sites, represented a developmental phase. As skills and understanding grew, the techniques for shaping stone became more refined. Scholars continue to debate the exact timeline and geographical spread of these evolving masonry styles, but the foundational work of dressing stone with pounding stones and abrasives was a universal starting point for many Inca construction projects, including those at this remarkable mountain citadel. There is a certain quiet satisfaction in watching a craftsman at work, and the stone dressers were no different. One could observe a mason carefully working a large block, sweat beading on their brow, not from oppressive heat, but from focused exertion. They might pause, run a calloused hand over a freshly smoothed surface, a silent assessment of their progress. A successful dressing would yield a satisfyingly flat plane, a marked improvement over the raw quarry stone. It was a process that required incredible patience, as a single block could take days to prepare for the next stage. The sheer volume of stone that needed to be worked meant that hundreds of individuals were engaged in this preparatory labor. Imagine them spread across the terraces and construction areas, each with their small pile of tools, pounding stones, harder stone chisels, and containers for the slurry of sand and water. The air would carry the rhythmic sound of stone striking stone, a percussive symphony of creation. This was the sound of progress, the audible manifestation of the meticulous effort required to bring the grand vision of the citadel to life block by careful block. The use of sand and water as an abrasive is a fascinating detail, speaking to the Incas' ingenuity in utilizing natural resources. It highlights an understanding of material science, albeit an empirical one, recognizing that the grit of sand could wear down even hard granite when combined with constant motion. This method required not just physical strength, but also a practical understanding of how to maintain the abrasive slurry, ensuring a continuous supply of the gritty mixture to keep the smoothing process effective. It was a partnership between human endeavor and the very earth from which the materials were drawn. These early masonry techniques, while simpler than the later highly irregular polygonal fits, were crucial in establishing the fundamental principles of Inca construction. They demonstrated a commitment to precision and durability, even in the preparation of basic building components. The skills honed in dressing these stones provided the foundation for the more complex architectural feats that would follow, showcasing a gradual mastery over stone that would eventually astound the world. The attention to detail in these foundational stages is a testament to the overall quality and planning that characterized the entire endeavor. The progression from rough quarry block to a smoothly dressed stone ready for placement was a vital step in the construction process. It was a transformation that required not just physical labor, but also a developed skill set and a deep understanding of the materials at hand. This was the genesis of the precise masonry work that would characterize the entire site, a slow and steady evolution of technique that built upon itself layer by painstaking layer. The careful preparation of each stone ensured the integrity and enduring beauty of the final structures. These foundational stone dressing techniques were fundamental to the construction of many structures, from retaining walls to the lower courses of important buildings. They represented a significant step in transforming raw materials into components suitable for complex architecture. The ongoing scholarly discussion centers on how these earlier simpler forms of dressed stone interacted with the later, more complex polygonal masonry, and whether they were applied concurrently or in distinct phases of construction, each contributing to the overall strength and aesthetic of the citadel.
The stones previously shaped offered a foundation, their surfaces smoothed by tireless effort and abrasive sand, now ready for the next profound stage of their transformation. This phase would see these prepared blocks elevated from mere cut stones to integral components of a structure built with an almost unimaginable precision. The goal was to fit them together so perfectly that the line between one stone and the next would become a near invisible testament to the mason's skill. As these blocks were brought to their final positions, the process became one of meticulous, almost patient dialogue between the stoneworker and the granite or andesite. Each block, already roughly shaped, would be carefully placed adjacent to its intended neighbor, and then, through a process of repeated grinding and trial fitting, its edges would be subtly adjusted. This involved using smaller, harder stones for the final dressing, working with fine sand and water to create a smooth, clean edge. This was not the work of a single individual, but of highly specialized teams of masons. One team might prepare a stone, while another would dress the receiving surface of the wall, a continuous cycle of preparation and fitting. This required an exceptional understanding of how the stones would bear weight, a sense of balance, and an eye for the minute adjustments needed to achieve the perfect seam, all guided by the overall architectural vision. The raw materials, particularly the select hard stones like basalt or obsidian, were crucial for this detailed work. Their superior hardness allowed them to effectively shape the softer granite and andesite, acting as precision tools in the hands of skilled artisans. The constant application of water with the sand not only aided in grinding, but also helped to reveal the true contours of the stone, making imperfections more apparent and easier to correct. Indeed, the challenge for these masons was immense, to create near-perfect interlocking joints between irregularly shaped blocks, a feat that seems impossible without advanced measuring instruments. The solution was not a single breakthrough, but a sustained commitment to refinement, a process of relentless trial and error that over time yielded the remarkable results seen throughout the site.
This dedication to perfection meant that even the slightest deviation was carefully rectified. One could almost hear the soft, persistent rasp of stone against stone, a subtle music of creation that filled the air around the active construction areas. The feel of these stones, once they settled into place, was one of uncanny smoothness, their joins so tight that not even a blade of grass could be inserted between them. This created a visual effect of solid, almost flowing rock faces, a stark contrast to the rougher state of the quarried blocks. This meticulous method, often referred to as polygonal masonry, relied on a keen spatial awareness and an innate sense of geometry among the builders. They did not work from detailed blueprints as we understand them today, but rather from a deep understanding of the forms and how they should interlock, a knowledge likely passed down through generations of masons, ensuring continuity and refinement of technique. This approach fostered a unique relationship between the builders and their materials, demanding patience and an almost intuitive grasp of the stone's properties. Each block was unique, and its fitting required individual attention, a departure from standardized construction methods that might use mass-produced components. This individualized approach to each stone contributed to the overall strength and resilience of the structures. When a perfectly dressed block was finally settled into its position, it did not merely rest, it became an inseparable part of the wall, its weight distributing evenly with its neighbors. This interconnectedness created a formidable stability, a testament to the understanding that the strength of the whole relied on the integrity of each individual joint and the care taken in its creation. This intricate fitting process meant that a significant portion of the labor was dedicated to dressing and shaping, rather than simply lifting and placing. The sheer volume of stone that had to be painstakingly ground and adjusted highlights the incredible investment of human effort and skill. It was a systematic process, broken down into manageable stages, each requiring a specific expertise. The result was architecture that seemed to grow organically from the mountain itself, a seamless integration of the natural and the built environment. The precision achieved was not merely aesthetic, it contributed directly to the structural integrity of the walls, allowing them to withstand the considerable forces of gravity and the occasional tremors of the earth that are common in this region. The extraordinary tightness of these joints, achieved without any mortar, is a defining characteristic of the finest Inca stonework. It speaks to a profound understanding of how stone interacts with stone, how to create self-supporting structures that can endure for centuries. This elevated the simple act of building into a refined art form, a silent language of precision etched in granite. Modern research continues to uncover new dimensions of these masterful stoneworks. The massive stones, now shaped with an astonishing precision that amazed anyone who ran a hand across their surfaces, represented the culmination of immense effort. These were not mere building blocks, they were testament to a deep understanding of how to make structures endure. With the walls themselves taking shape, the focus necessarily shifted to the very foundation upon which everything rested. It was time to consider how these magnificent stone edifices would remain steadfast, rooted firmly against the formidable forces of the mountains themselves. Inca builders understood that a structure's strength began deep within the earth, a principle that guided their initial steps for every significant construction. This involved a methodical process of preparing the ground where walls would rise. Instead of simply piling stones, they meticulously excavated down to bedrock or to exceptionally stable soil layers, ensuring that the new foundations would be firmly anchored. This careful preparation of the sub-foundation meant that the weight of the entire edifice would be distributed evenly, a crucial step for buildings destined to stand for centuries. This foundational work required a specific approach to materials, favoring those known for their sheer durability and resistance to weathering. For the lowest courses of the walls, and especially for the foundations themselves, heavier, more robust stones were chosen, often larger than those used higher up. These stones possessed an inherent density, capable of bearing significant loads without fracturing. Their selection was a deliberate act, demonstrating foresight regarding the immense pressures they would be subjected to over time.
The labor organization dedicated to these foundational tasks was considerable, comprising teams of skilled laborers who understood the importance of this initial phase. These were not the stone shapers who worked with delicate precision, but individuals with immense strength and an understanding of how to move and place massive weights accurately. Their coordinated efforts, guided by overseers, ensured that the base layers were not only solid, but also perfectly level, a prerequisite for the structural integrity of the entire building. The principal challenge faced by the Inca planners and builders was the inherent instability of the mountainous terrain. This region was known for its steep slopes and occasional seismic activity, factors that could easily destabilize even the most expertly constructed buildings. The Inca solution lay in a combination of deep foundations and a deliberate architectural choice, constructing walls that were subtly battered, meaning they sloped slightly inward as they rose. This inward lean, a mere few degrees, created a remarkable stability, allowing the structure to resist lateral forces and shift predictably rather than collapse. This architectural feature, the inward sloping wall, was not merely about engineering efficacy. It also lent a visual sense of grounding and permanence to the structures. The stones were fitted together with the same unparalleled precision seen elsewhere, ensuring that the inward pressure was distributed evenly along the entire length of the wall. This meticulous attention to detail, from the deepest foundation stones to the topmost courses, created a cohesive and incredibly resilient building system. Scholarly analysis of these techniques often highlights their remarkable similarity to modern seismic-resistant building principles, a testament to the Incas' advanced understanding of physics and engineering. Though they lacked the sophisticated mathematical tools we possess today, their practical application of knowledge, derived from generations of building in a challenging environment, resulted in structures that have withstood the test of time. It's quite remarkable, isn't it, to think that techniques developed centuries ago still inform the way we build for safety today.
The selection of specific stone types for these foundational and load-bearing elements played a critical role in the success of these construction methods. Granite, with its fine grain and exceptional hardness, was often favored for the lowest courses, its density providing an ideal base. Andesite, another hard volcanic rock, was also employed, its uniform texture and resistance to weathering making it suitable for continuous wall construction, ensuring that the carefully dressed stones would remain in place for generations to come. The process of laying these foundation stones was not a quick one. Each massive block required careful maneuvering into position, with teams of men using levers and ropes to guide them into their final resting places. Once a stone was settled, it was not simply left. It was often further dressed on site to ensure a perfect fit with its neighbors. This on-site refinement meant that even the foundational elements were crafted with the same dedication to precision as the walls of sacred temples, a truly impressive commitment to quality. These foundational elements and carefully constructed walls formed the very skeleton of the citadel, a robust framework designed to endure. The Inca understood that true strength came from building not just upon the land, but as an integrated part of it, ensuring that their creations would stand as a lasting testament to their ingenuity and their deep connection to the natural world. It is this enduring quality, this ability to blend the man-made with the elemental that continues to capture the imagination. The documented evidence reveals layers of meaning that scholars still examine. With the foundations laid and the lower courses of stone meticulously set, the work now turned to the walls that would define the structures of the citadel, rising from the mountain's embrace. This phase demanded a deeper understanding of how to coax strength and resilience from the very earth, ensuring that each edifice would endure against the powerful forces of nature. The construction moved beyond the initial shaping of raw blocks to the intricate art of their assembly, a process requiring immense precision and a profound respect for the materials themselves. The careful selection of stones continued, with masons assessing the properties of each piece of andesite and granite, looking for density and uniformity that would serve them best in the rising walls. This wasn't a matter of simply picking up stones. It was a systematic evaluation, almost a conversation with the rock itself, discerning which pieces held the greatest potential for load-bearing. The walls were not built from the ground up in a uniform fashion. Rather, they often began with a slight inward slope, a technique known as battering, which provided an inherent stability, a natural resistance to tipping or shifting, especially crucial on these steep Andean slopes. This meticulous dressing of stone continued, with teams of masons painstakingly refining the surfaces of each block that would form the courses. The hallmark of Inca masonry, the near-perfect fit between irregularly shaped stones, was the ultimate goal. They employed smaller, harder stone chisels and hammers, along with fine sand and water as abrasives, to grind and shape the faces of each stone. This trial-and-error process, repeated countless times for each individual block, ensured that when two stones met, their surfaces would align with astonishing accuracy, creating a bond stronger than any mortar could provide. The labor organization at this stage was highly specialized, with gangs of masons working in close proximity, their efforts synchronized by supervisors who understood the overall architectural vision. One group would meticulously dress a stone to fit its destined neighbor, while another team would simultaneously prepare the next block for its turn. This collaborative effort required not only individual skill, but also an acute awareness of how each stone's placement contributed to the integrity of the entire wall, a testament to the coordinated planning that underpinned all Inca construction projects. The challenges inherent in this process were immense. To achieve such precise fits with relatively simple tools demanded an extraordinary level of patience and dedication, a quality that seemed to permeate the workforce. The sheer weight of the stones further complicated matters, requiring careful maneuvering and placement to avoid damage to the dressed surfaces or the foundational courses. The solution lay not in brute force alone, but in intelligent application of techniques, in the slow, deliberate rhythm of stone against stone, and in the collective understanding that perfection in each joint ensured the longevity of the entire structure.
The visual rhythm of the patterned stonework began to emerge as the walls grew higher, a testament to the careful selection and placement of each block. The eye could trace the lines of precisely fitted stones, a visual harmony that spoke of order and intentionality. This wasn't just construction, it was an art form, an expression of the Incas' deep connection to their environment and their ability to transform raw materials into enduring monuments that seemed to grow organically from the mountainside. One might ponder how such intricate work was maintained across the vastness of the construction site. It appears that specialized quarries were often established near the intended building locations, minimizing the distances over which the heaviest stones needed to be transported. Furthermore, the workforce likely operated in teams that maintained a consistent presence at specific construction zones, allowing for the development of specialized skills and a familiar rhythm of work. This efficiency in resource management and labor deployment was key to the success of such ambitious undertakings. The sounds associated with this phase of construction were a distinct chorus. The sharp, percussive ringing of stone striking stone as masons dressed surfaces, punctuated by the softer scraping and grinding as sand and water were used to achieve the final polish. The low calls of supervisors directing the teams, the rhythmic grunts of men maneuvering heavy blocks, and the rustle of woven tunics as they moved, added to the soundscape. These were the auditory signatures of creation, a constant hum of purposeful activity against the backdrop of the high Andean peaks. The feel of the stones themselves would have been a constant sensory experience for the builders. The rough texture of freshly quarried granite, giving way to the progressively smoother surfaces as each block was refined, provided a tactile connection to the very substance of their endeavor. The cool, damp feel of the earth after infrequent rain, mingling with the dust kicked up by countless feet, added another layer to the sensory tapestry of the building site. These physical sensations grounded the laborers in their task, connecting them to the raw power of the mountain. This systematic approach to wall construction, focusing on the interlocking nature of the stones and the stability provided by battered walls, represented a sophisticated understanding of structural mechanics. It ensured that the buildings of Machu Picchu were not merely decorative, but were engineered for resilience, capable of withstanding the constant presence of wind and the occasional tremor of the earth. The meticulous fitting of each stone distributed weight evenly, preventing undue stress on any single point, a principle that modern engineers still recognize as vital for earthquake resistance. The question that naturally arises is the nature of the in-course fitting itself. This refers to the practice where stones within the same horizontal layer, or course, were not only dressed to fit their immediate neighbors, but also precisely shaped to align with each other along the horizontal plane. This created continuous, stable layers that were inherently strong, reinforcing the overall structural integrity of the wall. It was a level of detail that spoke volumes about the commitment to quality and durability in every aspect of the construction. Consider the practicalities. If a stone was slightly off, the entire course could be compromised. This meant that the masons developing the plans, and indeed the skilled laborers executing them, had to possess a keen eye for detail and an intuitive understanding of how the weight of the upper courses would bear down upon the lower ones. This system of construction, relying solely on precisely cut stone and gravity, is a remarkable testament to the Incas' mastery of engineering without the aid of advanced mathematical instruments or the wheel for heavy lifting. The durability of these stone walls, built with such painstaking effort, is a powerful indicator of the builder's intent. They were not constructing temporary shelters, but structures meant to last, to stand as a permanent testament to their civilization. The very act of meticulously shaping each stone, of ensuring each joint was perfect, was an investment in the future, a commitment to creating something that would endure through generations, a physical manifestation of their societal values and their relationship with the land. This enduring strength, achieved through a combination of careful material selection, precise shaping, and intelligent structural design, was fundamental to the creation of the citadel. The walls did more than just enclose spaces. They formed the very skeleton of Machu Picchu, providing the stability and form that allowed the rest of the complex to take shape, a silent promise of permanence in a dynamic landscape. This process reflects universal human responses to the challenge of building enduring structures that integrate with formidable natural landscapes. Water, a force of life, was as crucial to the survival of any settlement as the stone that formed its walls, and the Inca engineers understood this intimately. Their approach to water management at this mountaintop citadel was nothing short of remarkable,
a testament to their deep understanding of both hydraulics and the unforgiving terrain. They didn't merely channel water, they orchestrated its flow, transforming potential threats like heavy rains into a controlled, life-sustaining resource. The process began with the landscape itself, a natural repository of moisture from the mists and frequent cloudbursts that characterized this region of the Andes. Expert surveyors, men who could read the subtle contours of the earth, identified natural springs and catchment areas, often high above the main construction site. Their meticulous work involved mapping the most efficient routes for water to travel downhill, a task that required not only an understanding of gravity, but also of the soil's properties to prevent costly erosion and landslides. Following these expertly drawn plans, teams of laborers meticulously constructed channels, primarily using precisely dressed stone. These channels, or aqueducts, were designed with gentle, consistent gradients, ensuring a steady, predictable flow of water, without the chaotic rush that could damage the structures. The fitting of the stones within these channels was paramount, creating a smooth surface that minimized friction and allowed water to glide effortlessly, preventing leakage and ensuring that as much of the precious resource as possible reached its intended destination. This system extended far beyond simple conduits. It encompassed a complex network of drains and spillways, each serving a vital purpose in managing the water cycle. Where rainfall was heaviest, designed spillways diverted excess water safely away from buildings and agricultural terraces, preventing saturation of the foundations. This intricate planning prevented the very earth from undermining their grand construction, a constant threat in such a steep environment. It is these water systems, a marvel of engineering, that scholars often point to as defining features of Inca ingenuity. Indeed, the challenge of harnessing and controlling water in this cloud-forested setting was immense. The sheer volume of rainfall could be overwhelming, posing a constant risk of erosion and destabilization. The Inca solution was to create a resilient infrastructure, a symphony of stone and gradient that not only supplied water for drinking and agriculture, but also actively managed the flow to protect their meticulously built city. This prevented the very elements that sustained life from becoming destructive forces. The skilled laborers involved in this work were essential, often requiring specialized knowledge of stonework and earth moving. These were not men simply tasked with hauling rocks. They were engineers in training, understanding how to create stable retaining walls for channels and how to manage the flow of water without disrupting the delicate balance of the mountainside. Their coordinated efforts ensured that the water management system, a cornerstone of the citadel's functionality, was built to endure. Beyond the main channels, smaller, more localized drainage systems were incorporated into the very fabric of the buildings and plazas. Small openings and meticulously angled stones directed rainwater away from occupied areas and public spaces, preventing the accumulation of moisture that could lead to decay or create inconvenient puddles. This attention to detail, from the grand aqueducts to the smallest drain, underscored a profound respect for the element of water. The materials chosen for these water systems were also critical to their success. While utilitarian structures might have used less precisely worked stone, the aqueduct channels, where water flowed continuously, demanded the finest craftsmanship. Finely dressed stone, often fitted tightly, ensured not only smooth flow, but also longevity, resisting the constant action of moving water. It speaks to the resourcefulness of the Inca, utilizing the bounty of the mountainside to serve such a vital purpose. One might wonder how such complex gradients were maintained across vast distances, ensuring the water's steady descent without excessive speed. This was achieved through careful surveying and a deep, practical understanding of geometry and physics, passed down through generations of engineers and builders. It was a knowledge that informed every cut of the chisel, every placement of a stone in the aqueducts and drains that laced the citadel. This entire network, a testament to human ingenuity and organizational skill, allowed the inhabitants to thrive in a challenging environment. It provided them with clean drinking water, sustained their agriculture through irrigation, and protected their homes from the destructive potential of the abundant rainfall. These insights into their water management systems offer a unique window into the sophistication of their society and their ability to live in harmony with a demanding natural world. These hydrological insights contribute to our understanding of ancient Inca environmental engineering. As the meticulous stone dressing progressed, attention naturally turned to the very earth that would support these structures, especially on the steep slopes that characterize the chosen location. Transforming these inclines into usable space required a different, yet equally demanding form of engineering, the creation of agricultural terraces, or andenes. This systematic process began not with stone, but with a deep understanding of the land itself, identifying sections of the mountainside that could be leveled and stabilized. The engineers and laborers had to consider the angle of the sun, the direction of the prevailing winds, and, most importantly, the intricate flow of water across the landscape. The construction of these retaining walls, which formed the edges of each terrace, demanded a careful selection of stones. While sometimes smaller, more easily handled rocks were used for the very front-facing surfaces to create a smooth appearance, the core of these walls relied on larger, more robust stones. These were carefully fitted together, not for the precise, near-invisible joints seen in the ceremonial buildings, but for sheer strength and the ability to withstand the immense pressure of the earth packed behind them. This process involved teams of workers meticulously placing stones, ensuring each one contributed to the overall stability of the bank.
Following the placement of these foundational stone walls, the process moved to the careful layering of various granular materials. A crucial layer of rubble was often laid directly behind the retaining wall, allowing for significant drainage. Above this, layers of gravel and then coarser soil were added, each compacted in turn to create a stable yet permeable base. This intricate layering was vital, as it prevented water from building up behind the wall and exerting pressure that could cause a collapse, a significant challenge on such steep gradients where water naturally sought the path of least resistance. The sheer scale of labor involved in building these terraces cannot be overstated. Thousands upon thousands of these stepped fields were created, transforming the mountainside into a patchwork of arable land. Specialized teams of laborers worked across different sectors of the site, their efforts coordinated to ensure consistent progress. Some groups focused on quarrying and shaping the stones for the retaining walls, while others concentrated on clearing the earth, moving materials, and meticulously laying the drainage and soil layers. This widespread mobilization of human effort was essential for altering the very topography of the mountain. The primary challenge faced by the builders was the inherent instability of the steep slopes and the need to create arable land that would resist erosion and endure for generations. Creating these terraces was not merely about creating flat surfaces. It was about engineering the very landscape to support agriculture and simultaneously to stabilize the mountainside itself. The careful design of the retaining walls, coupled with the sophisticated drainage systems within the terraces, provided a robust solution, preventing landslides and ensuring that the soil remained fertile and in place for cultivation. The visual effect of this extensive terracing was dramatic. The mountainside transformed into a series of ascending steps, each a perfectly crafted platform for planting crops like maize and potatoes. Imagine the precise placement of stones in these supporting walls, the feel of the damp soil being layered and compacted, and the visual order that emerged from this massive undertaking. The stepped landscape not only served a practical purpose, but also created a unique aesthetic, softening the harshness of the mountain and integrating the human-made structures seamlessly with the natural contours. This careful management of the land extended beyond the agricultural terraces themselves. Numerous channels and drains were constructed to manage the water runoff from these stepped fields, preventing the saturation of the soil and directing excess water away from habitation areas. These channels, often lined with finely dressed stone, demonstrate a holistic approach to the site's environmental management, recognizing that effective farming depended on controlling water's flow. The engineering of these drainage systems was as critical as the terraces themselves for the long-term viability of the settlement. Considering the immense effort and ingenuity required to carve these agricultural platforms from the mountain, it prompts contemplation. How did the Inca society organize and sustain such a colossal undertaking across their vast empire? And what does this meticulous transformation of the natural world reveal about their societal values and priorities? This focus on the terraces highlights a profound respect for the land and a commitment to maximizing its potential even in the most challenging environments. The very creation of usable farmland on such precipitous slopes speaks volumes about their resourcefulness and organizational capacity. The meticulous selection of stones for these retaining walls, prioritizing durability and interlocking strength over superficial beauty, underscores a pragmatic approach to foundational construction. The use of varying sizes and shapes, carefully placed and often cemented with a binding earth mixture, ensured that each wall could bear significant weight and withstand the erosive forces of rain and wind. This construction method, repeated across thousands of individual terraces, created a resilient and enduring framework for the agricultural productivity that sustained the inhabitants of the citadel. The placement of these terraces was not arbitrary. It was a calculated decision based on agricultural needs and the site's existing topography. Engineers and farmers worked together, assessing which slopes received adequate sunlight and were best suited for specific crops. The creation of each terrace involved leveling the ground, building the retaining wall, and then filling the space with layers of soil and organic matter. This systematic step-by-step approach ensured that the transformed landscape was not only stable, but also fertile and ready for cultivation, forming the very foundation of the settlement's sustenance. The evidence from this period of extensive terracing continues to inform scholarly understanding of Inca agricultural practices and their sophisticated engineering capabilities in adapting to challenging environments. The air often carried the crispness of high altitude, a constant reminder of the mountain's embrace as workers began their day. Within the grand design of this mountain retreat, specific areas were set aside for purposes that reached beyond the practicalities of daily life, delving into the very fabric of the Inca understanding of the cosmos. These were the sacred precincts, places where the heavens and the earth were believed to convene, and their construction demanded a level of precision and thoughtfulness that set them apart from even the most carefully engineered terraces or fortifying walls. The task involved translating complex observations of celestial bodies into stone, a profound endeavor that required a different kind of skill altogether. This undertaking began with the meticulous selection of sites for these most significant structures, often chosen for their commanding views of the horizon or their alignment with specific celestial events. The planners sought locations that offered unobstructed sightlines to the rising or setting sun on particular days, or where prominent peaks could serve as natural markers for astronomical observations. It wasn't merely about building a place to worship. It was about building a living calendar, a monument to the cyclical nature of time as understood by the Inca. These choices were made with deep consideration for the spiritual resonance of the landscape, integrating the astronomical and the geological into a single, meaningful whole. Then came the painstaking work of shaping the stone itself, especially for edifices like the Temple of the Sun, with its elegantly curved wall.
This particular structure required a different approach to masonry than the more rectilinear buildings. Masons employed a more intensive shaping process, transforming stones into subtly curved or trapezoidal forms that interlocked with astonishing accuracy. This wasn't achieved with mortar, but through an almost perfect grinding and fitting of each stone against its neighbors, a process that demanded immense patience and a keen understanding of geometric principles. The result was a seamless integration of stone, appearing almost sculpted rather than quarried and assembled. The Intihuatana stone, often called the hitching post of the sun, presented an even more unique challenge. This monolithic pillar, carved from the very bedrock of the mountain, was a sophisticated astronomical tool. Its precise angles and smooth surfaces were designed to cast shadows that indicated the passage of time, marking solstices and equinoxes. The creation of such an object involved expert knowledge of astronomy and geometry, far beyond that of a common laborer. It is believed that a select group of highly skilled artisans, perhaps even priest architects, were responsible for its intricate carving and placement, ensuring its astronomical accuracy. The selection of materials for these sacred spaces was also a critical consideration. While the utilitarian structures might have utilized a range of stone types, the temples and observatories often featured exceptionally fine-grained granite or andesite. These stones were chosen for their durability, their smooth finish when polished, and their ability to hold intricate detail. The surface preparation was extensive. Workers would spend considerable time grinding and polishing these stones to a near-mirror finish, a tactile contrast to the rougher textures of other parts of the citadel. This attention to detail underscored the sacred nature of these areas. The labor organization for these specific structures likely differed from the general workforce. While vast numbers of people were involved in the overall construction, the creation of sacred sites probably involved smaller, highly specialized teams. These individuals possessed not only exceptional stoneworking skills, but also a deep understanding of the Incas' religious beliefs and cosmological worldview. They were the elite artisans, entrusted with translating abstract spiritual concepts into tangible, enduring forms that would connect the earthly realm with the celestial. Their work was guided by a different set of principles, one rooted in ritual and profound respect for the natural world. One of the primary challenges in constructing these areas was achieving the extraordinary precision required for astronomical alignments and interlocking stonework, especially when working with irregular shapes. The slight variations in the natural stone demanded constant adjustment and a trial-and-error approach on site. The solution lay in a relentless dedication to refinement, where each stone was painstakingly dressed until it fit perfectly with its intended counterpart. This method of construction, known as ashlar masonry, reached its zenith in these sacred spaces, showcasing the apex of Inca architectural and engineering skill. The scholarly debate continues regarding the precise astronomical functions of structures like the Intihuatana. While many agree it served as a celestial marker, the exact calendrical systems and ritualistic practices associated with it are still being uncovered. Some theories suggest it was used for precise timekeeping for agricultural cycles, while others posit a more direct connection to the Inca deity, Inti, the sun god, as a means of symbolically hitching him to the earth to ensure his return. This ongoing discussion highlights the complexity of Inca cosmology and its integration into their built environment. This meticulous approach to building sacred spaces, from the careful selection of sites to the precise dressing of stones and the specialized labor involved, reveals much about the Inca worldview. It demonstrates a society that deeply valued the connection between the celestial and terrestrial realms, and that possessed the organizational capacity and technical skill to manifest these beliefs in stone. It was a practice that bound together the practicalities of survival with the profound spiritual imperatives of their culture, a remarkable synthesis that still astounds us today. These methods demonstrate recurring patterns in human civilization. The intricate stonework and carefully planned agricultural terraces formed only part of the living citadel. The way people moved between these areas and the spaces created for gathering and interaction were equally vital to its function. Following the meticulous construction of the foundational walls and the essential water channels, attention then turned to shaping the open areas and the pathways that would knit the entire complex together. These plazas and walkways were not afterthoughts, but integral components designed to facilitate both daily life and communal activities within the mountainous terrain. The creation of these open spaces involved considerable effort in leveling and preparing the ground. Teams of laborers worked to clear and flatten sections of the mountainside, creating firm, usable surfaces for what would become communal gathering points. These plazas served as important social hubs, places where people could meet, conduct business, or participate in ceremonies. Their very existence requiring careful planning to integrate with the surrounding architecture and the natural slope of the land. Connecting these plazas and the various functional zones of the citadel required an extensive network of pathways and stairways. The engineers and builders carefully charted routes that followed the natural contours of the mountain, minimizing the need for drastic alteration of the terrain while still ensuring efficient passage. These routes were not merely functional. They were designed to be aesthetically pleasing, offering carefully framed views of the surrounding landscape and guiding movement through the organized layout of the settlement. Materials for these thoroughfares were chosen for both durability and a smooth walking surface. Carefully dressed flagstones, often made from local stone expertly shaped and smoothed, were laid to create the plazas and the treads of the stairways. This meticulous dressing ensured that the surfaces were firm, provided good footing, and offered a consistent texture underfoot, contributing to the overall sense of order and craftsmanship present throughout the site. The labor involved in constructing these pathways was considerable, requiring precise measurement and the careful placement of thousands of stones. Teams of masons and laborers worked in unison, ensuring that each step in a stairway was of uniform height and depth, and that the flagstones in the plazas were laid with consistent gaps, if any. This required constant communication and a shared understanding of the overall design, demonstrating a high degree of coordination among the workforce. One of the primary challenges in developing these internal circulation systems was the extreme topography of the site. Steep inclines and irregular terrain presented constant obstacles, demanding innovative solutions for creating accessible pathways and functional plazas. The Inca builders addressed this by designing stairways that adapted to the natural slopes, often carving steps directly into the bedrock or constructing them from carefully fitted stones that could withstand the forces of gravity and wear. The result of this careful integration of plazas and pathways was a cohesive urban fabric, where movement was intuitive and public spaces were inviting. These areas provided a sense of order and community, allowing the inhabitants to navigate their environment with ease and to come together for shared activities. The thoughtful design ensured that even the most utilitarian aspects of the citadel contributed to its overall beauty and functionality. When one considers these open spaces and the systems that connected them, a pertinent question arises about the rhythm of daily life within such a structured environment. Were these plazas bustling with constant activity, or did they serve more specific, perhaps ritualistic purposes at certain times? The sheer number of pathways suggests a community that moved frequently between different areas, engaging in a variety of tasks and social interactions.
The design of these interconnected spaces also speaks to a sophisticated understanding of human movement and spatial organization. The pathways were not laid out in a haphazard manner. Instead, they appeared to guide people purposefully from residential areas to agricultural zones and from plazas to the sacred precincts. This intelligent integration facilitated the smooth operation of the citadel as a whole, minimizing congestion and maximizing efficiency. The careful selection and placement of flagstones for these walkways and gathering areas also served a practical purpose, offering a stable and durable surface. Unlike rougher, unprepared ground, these dressed stones provided a reliable footing, especially during periods of rain, which are common in this region. This attention to the pedestrian experience underscores the thoroughness of the Inca planning and construction efforts. The teams responsible for these aspects of construction, though perhaps less visible than those who dressed the great stone blocks, were equally crucial to the citadel's success. They understood how to work with the land, how to create stable surfaces, and how to connect disparate elements into a unified whole. Their efforts were essential in transforming a series of impressive buildings into a functioning, living community. The visual impact of these organized spaces and connecting paths was profound. They provided a sense of order amidst the dramatic mountain scenery, creating a human-made environment that felt both intentional and harmonious with its surroundings. The gentle flow of pathways and the expansive nature of the plazas offered moments of respite and gathering, contributing to the overall sense of well-being for the inhabitants. These carefully constructed thoroughfares and gathering places reveal the complexity of historical change, demonstrating how infrastructure directly supports social and functional organization within a settlement. Such adaptations highlight the deep consideration given to the practicalities of daily life and communal interaction when shaping a landscape for habitation.
The final preparations, those smaller details that transform a collection of stone and earth into a vibrant place, were now underway. Across the terraces and within the residential sectors, the last elements were being put into place. These tasks, though less monumental than raising walls, were vital for the functionality and comfort of the citadel. Skilled workers now attended to the structures that would shelter the inhabitants. Thatch, gathered from grasses in the valleys, was meticulously layered and secured onto wooden frameworks to form the roofs. These roofs, designed to shed the frequent rains of the high mountains, also provided a necessary coolness during the day, a welcome respite from the directness of the sun. The placement of these roofing materials required a deep understanding of how to secure them against the winds that swept through the peaks. Workers used strong ropes woven from plant fibers to lash the bundles of thatch firmly to the supporting rafters and purlins, ensuring they would not be dislodged by strong gusts. This finishing touch brought a sense of completion to the dwellings. Beyond the roofs, attention turned to the entrances and windows. Doorways were framed with carefully fitted stone lintels and jambs, smooth to the touch and positioned to allow passage while maintaining the integrity of the wall. Windows, often trapezoidal openings, were also finished with dressed stone, letting in light and allowing for ventilation without compromising the structure's solidity. A significant ongoing aspect involved the final dressing of exposed stone surfaces in prominent areas. This was not merely for appearance, but also to ensure water ran off effectively, preventing frost damage during colder periods. Even the smallest details, like the slight inward slope of exterior walls, known as battering, were checked to confirm they met the established standards for stability. The meticulous integration of the built environment with its dramatic natural setting was a hallmark of this final stage. Building placement considered the surrounding peaks, orienting structures to capture beneficial sunlight or to offer stunning vistas. It was clear that the planners aimed for a harmonious relationship between the human-made and the wild mountain landscape. This careful consideration of how the site would interact with its environment
particularly regarding water runoff and wind patterns, is a point of ongoing fascination for those who study such ancient works. Scholars debate the precise extent to which natural formations influenced the final design decisions, suggesting that the landscape itself was as much a blueprint as any sketched plan. The effort involved in these final stages was considerable, requiring dedicated teams to ensure every element was completed to the exacting standards set by the Inca engineers and overseers. This final phase, bringing together all the skillfully quarried and fitted stones with perishable materials and careful attention to detail, solidified the citadel's readiness. This meticulous work, from the last roof thatch to the final smoothing of a threshold stone, exemplifies how a deep respect for the environment and rigorous attention to detail can lead to enduring creations. This examination illuminates broader forces that shape societies. The Great Citadel, now largely complete, stood as a breathtaking testament to countless efforts, a symphony of stone and sky meticulously assembled. All the elements discussed, the careful selection of the mountain's embrace, the patient extraction of granite, the arduous journey of colossal blocks, the masterful shaping of each irregular stone, the clever channeling of water, and the creation of stable, cultivated slopes, all converged here. This unified effort demonstrated an remarkable efficiency and sophistication in their planning and execution, leaving no aspect of the site to chance. The very stone, the bedrock of their achievement, revealed the Incas' deep understanding of its inherent properties, from its resilience to its weight-bearing capacity. This understanding informed every choice, from the foundations to the most delicate sacred structures. Without the coordinated efforts of a vast and skilled workforce, guided by a precise hierarchical system, such an undertaking would have remained an impossible dream. These laborers, organized and directed with purpose, transformed raw materials into enduring architecture. The entire endeavor, looking upon the completed work, was a grand tapestry woven from solved challenges. From the sheer logistics of moving immense weights across treacherous terrain, to the engineering marvels required to make structures stand firm on seismically active slopes, every difficulty was met with ingenuity. This systematic approach to overcoming obstacles underscores the advanced capabilities of the civilization that conceived and built this remarkable place. It stands as a powerful reminder of what dedicated human effort and intricate organization can accomplish. Scholars continue to debate the ultimate purpose of this mountaintop sanctuary. Some see it primarily as a royal estate, a place of retreat for the emperor and his court, supported by the refined living quarters and sophisticated amenities. Others point to the prominent ceremonial areas, the precisely aligned sacred structures, and suggest a profound religious significance, perhaps a center for astronomical observation and ritual. It may well have been all these things, a multifaceted hub designed to serve the needs of both the earthly ruler and the celestial powers. Now, one might wonder how such a complex vision was translated into a tangible reality across such challenging terrain. The meticulous placement of each building, the integration of plazas and pathways with the natural contours of the land, the thoughtful design of drainage systems to manage abundant rainfall, and the creation of thousands of stable terraces all speak to a holistic approach to urban planning. This was not merely construction, it was the careful sculpting of a mountain into a functional and sacred space, a place where human life was deeply intertwined with the surrounding environment. Consider the sheer scale of labor involved in creating the plazas and the extensive network of stairways that facilitated movement across the steep inclines. Teams of workers were responsible for leveling ground for these open gathering places and for carefully constructing the stone steps that connected the various levels of the citadel. These pathways were not just for traversal. They were designed to guide the eye, to draw inhabitants and visitors through the site in a way that honored the dramatic topography, ensuring that every step offered a new perspective on the surrounding peaks. The final touches brought a sense of completion. a harmonious blend of the built environment with its breathtaking natural setting. While the original thatched roofs have long since vanished, the precisely dressed stone surfaces and the carefully crafted doorways and windows speak to the meticulous finishing of the structures. The placement of buildings and terraces was not arbitrary. It was deeply considered, aimed at creating a visual and spiritual connection with the dramatic mountains and valleys that cradled the citadel. The material choices, especially the exceptionally fine-grained stone used for the most sacred spaces, distinguished these areas from the more utilitarian structures. This elevated craftsmanship in the temples and observatories further suggests a profound respect for the spiritual and astronomical functions these places served. The sheer quality of work in these areas, often featuring gently curved walls and perfectly fitted trapezoidal blocks, highlights the hands of elite artisans and perhaps priest architects. The remarkable integration of the site with its environment, a key element that scholars find so compelling, was not an afterthought, but a guiding principle. The thoughtful placement of each structure, the clever use of natural features, and the creation of spaces that offered commanding views all contributed to a sense of unity between the man-made and the natural. This deep respect for the surrounding landscape is a hallmark of the Inca civilization and is powerfully expressed in the design of this mountaintop marvel. The way this citadel functions as a whole, a cohesive unit born from a convergence of diverse efforts, is truly remarkable. The careful selection of the mountain, the patient extraction of stone, the arduous journey of colossal blocks, the masterful shaping of each irregular stone, the clever channeling of water, and the creation of stable, cultivated slopes all converged here. This unified effort demonstrated an impressive efficiency in planning and execution, leaving no aspect of the site to chance. The very stone, the bedrock of their achievement, revealed the Incas' deep understanding of its inherent properties, from its resilience to its weight-bearing capacity. This understanding informed every choice, from the foundations to the most delicate sacred structures, showcasing an advanced grasp of material science. Without the coordinated efforts of a vast and skilled workforce, guided by a precise hierarchical system, such an undertaking would have remained an impossible dream, highlighting the societal organization that underpinned such monumental achievements. These laborers, organized and directed with purpose, transformed raw materials into enduring architecture. The entire endeavor, looking upon the completed work, was a grand tapestry woven from solved challenges. From the sheer logistics of moving immense weights across treacherous terrain to the engineering marvels required to make structures stand firm on seismically active slopes, every difficulty was met with ingenuity and a methodical approach. This systematic approach to overcoming obstacles, evident in everything from water management to structural integrity, underscores the advanced capabilities of the civilization that conceived and built this remarkable place. A powerful reminder of what dedicated human effort and intricate organization can accomplish. The well-planned terracing, for instance, not only provided fertile land, but also served to stabilize the very mountainside, a dual purpose reflecting profound environmental understanding. The carefully dressed stone in the terraces, each piece fitted to retain soil and allow drainage, showcases the meticulous work that went into securing the ground for cultivation. The careful placement of buildings and terraces was not arbitrary. It was deeply considered, aimed at creating a visual and spiritual connection with the dramatic mountains and valleys that cradled the citadel. This deep respect for the surrounding landscape is a hallmark of the Inca civilization and is powerfully expressed in the design of this mountaintop marvel, where the built environment seems to grow organically from the rock. The way this citadel functions as a whole, a cohesive unit born from a convergence of diverse efforts, is truly remarkable, a testament to a society that valued harmony and purpose in all its endeavors. The enduring strength of the stonework, achieved through such painstaking precision, reflects a commitment to permanence that still resonates today. The entire site, a testament to a society that valued harmony and purpose, stands as a profound example of how humans can respond to fundamental challenges.
The grand undertaking at Machu Picchu, as we have seen, required not just skilled hands and clever minds, but a societal structure capable of marshaling immense resources and coordinating vast numbers of people. This is where the true marvel of the Inca state becomes apparent, for the construction of such a monumental site was deeply interwoven with their complex social organization. The planning and execution were not the work of a few master builders alone, but the product of a highly stratified society, where specialized roles were clearly defined and managed by a strong, centralized authority. Imagine a vast network of human effort, all directed towards a singular, magnificent vision, etched into the very mountainside. At the apex of this organization sat the Sapa Inca, the emperor, whose divine authority legitimized these massive projects, and his closest advisors, who translated his will into actionable plans. Below them were the engineers and architects, those learned individuals, who understood not only geometry and astronomy, but also the practicalities of moving earth and stone on an unprecedented scale. These were the minds that oversaw the surveyors, who mapped the terrain, ensuring every terrace, every wall, every channel fit harmoniously into the rugged landscape. Their role was crucial in translating the abstract vision into concrete steps, coordinating the efforts of countless others. Then came the specialized artisans and laborers, forming the backbone of the construction effort. Consider the quarry workers, individuals of immense physical strength, who understood the grain of the granite and the precise placement of pounding stones to release massive blocks from the bedrock. These were men whose lives were dedicated to this demanding work, their hands calloused and their bodies accustomed to the relentless rhythm of stone on stone. Historical accounts suggest that these skilled laborers were highly valued, their expertise honed through years of training and practical application, a testament to the Incas' commitment to quality. The process extended to the stone dressers and masons, the artists who transformed raw blocks into the precisely interlocking pieces of the citadel. These were not mere laborers, they were craftsmen who understood the subtle art of fitting irregular shapes with astonishing accuracy, a skill likely passed down through generations. Imagine the meticulous chipping and grinding, the use of abrasive sand and water to achieve that perfect, smooth finish, a task requiring incredible patience and a deep understanding of each stone's unique properties. This level of specialization speaks to a society that recognized and cultivated diverse talents for its grand projects. Beyond the stonework, other vital groups played their part. The engineers responsible for the intricate water management systems required a different kind of expertise, one focused on hydraulics and the understanding of how water behaves in the mountainous environment. These individuals had to design channels and aqueducts that would not only deliver water reliably, but also prevent erosion and landslides, a truly complex engineering challenge. They worked with the same precision as the stonemasons, ensuring that every drop of water, every flowing channel, contributed to the overall functionality and beauty of the site. Furthermore, the vast agricultural terraces, which are so visually striking, demanded an equally organized approach to their construction and maintenance. Teams of laborers, guided by experienced supervisors, were tasked with building retaining walls, carefully selecting stones, and then layering gravel, rubble, and soil in precisely the right sequence for drainage and stability. This transformed steep, unusable slopes into fertile farmland, feeding the population and solidifying the Incas' mastery over their challenging environment. It was a systematic transformation of the landscape, requiring immense coordinated effort over extended periods. The logistical challenges of feeding, housing, and organizing such a large workforce across the remote mountain landscape were themselves formidable. This necessitated a sophisticated administrative system capable of managing supplies, coordinating movements, and ensuring that the necessary labor force was available at the right time and place. Records suggest the existence of storehouses and a complex network for provisioning, demonstrating an understanding of resource management that was essential for the success of such vast undertakings. It was a testament to the state's ability to mobilize and sustain its people for its grand designs. Now, you might wonder about the specific composition of this workforce. Scholarly debates continue regarding the precise nature of labor organization. Some evidence points towards a system of mita, a form of mandatory public service or labor tax, where citizens contributed their time and skills to state projects. Others suggest a significant presence of specialized artisans and skilled workers who may have been more permanently employed or highly valued for their unique talents. It is likely that both forms of labor coexisted, with different tasks requiring different types of dedication and skill. One particularly interesting aspect of this societal organization is the evident transfer of knowledge. The intricate stonework, the sophisticated water systems, the planning of astronomical alignments. These skills were not innate. They were learned, practiced, and passed down, likely through formal training programs or apprenticeships within guilds or specialized groups. This commitment to skill development ensured the continuity and quality of construction over the years, allowing for the creation of such enduring structures that still inspire awe centuries later. Consider the tools themselves as a reflection of the people who wielded them. The rough pounding stones of the quarry workers, the finely honed stone chisels of the masons, the sturdy ropes woven from plant fibers for transport. Each item speaks to a different specialized group. The efficiency of their tool usage and the adaptation of materials to specific tasks demonstrate a deep practical knowledge of the physical world, a grounded understanding of how to achieve remarkable results with the resources at hand. This pragmatic approach underpins much of the Incas' engineering success. Indeed, the planning and construction of Machu Picchu represent a remarkable fusion of technical skill, meticulous organization, and deep cultural understanding. The very structure of Inca society, with its hierarchical organization and emphasis on communal labor for the state, was the engine that powered this incredible achievement. It highlights how a shared vision, supported by effective management and the dedication of a diverse workforce, could literally reshape mountains and leave behind a legacy that continues to captivate the world. These multifaceted contributions of various specialized groups, guided by a sophisticated organizational structure, help explain persistent questions in historical study regarding the sheer scale and precision of the site's creation. The final stones found their places. The terraces stood firm against the slopes, and the water channels flowed with a quiet purpose. Now, as the last echoes of construction work faded, a different kind of work began. The understanding of why this magnificent site, known now as Machu Picchu, came to be, and what enduring truths it holds for those who come after. The very air seemed to vibrate with the accumulated knowledge of generations, a quiet hum beneath the calls of distant birds. This comprehensive examination has systematically explored the immense undertaking, from the initial whisper of an idea in the highest councils to the precise fitting of each granite block. We have seen how the Inca, with a deep understanding of their mountainous world, chose a location that was both spiritually significant and strategically sound. Their vision, meticulously translated into plans, guided the transformation of a steep mountainside into a place of wonder. The process of quarrying the granite giants, a task demanding immense strength and patience, provided the raw materials, while the equally arduous journey of transporting these colossal stones across challenging terrain showcased their remarkable logistical planning. The craft of stone, evolving from early shaping techniques to the unparalleled precision of polygonal masonry, revealed a dedication to perfection that still astounds today. This commitment extended to the very foundations and walls, engineered to stand firm against gravity and the Earth's tremors, a testament to their structural understanding. Even the lifeblood of the settlement, its water management systems, spoke of sophisticated engineering, directing the flow of mountain springs with expert precision, while the creation of agricultural terraces demonstrated their ability to coax sustenance from seemingly impossible slopes. The spiritual heart of the citadel, with its astronomically aligned temples and sacred stones, highlighted a profound connection to the cosmos, intricately woven into the fabric of the architecture. We have traced the development of the site's internal structure, from grand plazas to functional pathways, all designed to facilitate movement and community life while respecting the natural contours of the land. The careful integration of the built environment with its dramatic setting, the final finishing touches that blurred the lines between human creation and mountain landscape, presented a holistic vision realized. All these elements, from the earliest site selection to the last stone laid, formed a symphony of design and execution, a complete picture of a civilization's pinnacle achievements. To truly grasp the magnitude of this endeavor, we must consider the social and organizational strata that made it all possible. It is evident that a highly structured hierarchy directed the immense labor force, comprising specialized quarry workers, skilled stonemasons, insightful engineers, diligent agriculturalists, and adept logistical coordinators. The mobilization and deployment of such a large and capable workforce, along with the vital transfer of knowledge and techniques across generations, underscore the sophisticated planning and execution in the Inca state. The careful control of quality and adherence to design specifications, likely maintained through centralized authority, ensured that every aspect of the construction met the demanding standards set for this significant site. The rediscovery of this lost city, often attributed to Hiram Bingham in 1911, brought its wonders to the attention of the wider world, sparking immense curiosity and study. This reemergence ignited decades of scholarly investigation, with researchers meticulously examining every stone, every terrace, and every water channel to unlock its secrets. Debates continue regarding its precise function. Was it primarily a royal estate for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, a sacred religious center, a vital agricultural hub, or perhaps a combination of these? The architectural evidence itself supports multiple interpretations, each facet of its design suggesting a unique purpose or a layered significance. The sheer scale of the undertaking and the precision of its execution speak volumes about the Incas' ingenuity and their capacity for organized, large-scale projects, a level of achievement seldom matched in the ancient world. In considering the enduring significance of Machu Picchu, we find not just a collection of remarkably preserved stone structures, but a profound testament to human endeavor and a deep symbiotic relationship with the natural world. The principles so evident here, careful, systematic planning, meticulous craftsmanship executed with immense patience, efficient resource management, and a harmonious integration with the surrounding environment, offer timeless lessons. They speak to the potential for human ingenuity when guided by a deep respect for the land and a commitment to enduring quality. Even now, new studies continually reveal subtle nuances in its construction and function, expanding our understanding and deepening our awe at this remarkable legacy. The echoes of the builders, their skills and their vision resonate through the stones, inviting continued contemplation and study. As the last rays of the sun dip below the Andean peaks, let us reflect on the enduring legacy of Machu Picchu. Imagine the meticulous planning that went into this mountaintop citadel. how the Inca engineers, with their profound understanding of the land, carefully chose its location. Think of the architectural marvels they brought to life. The precisely cut stones, fitted without mortar, forming terraces that hugged the mountainside, and buildings that seemed to grow from the very rock. This sacred place served as a vital cultural hub for the Inca, a testament to their ingenuity and spiritual connection to the natural world. Though eventually, for reasons still whispered in history, its stones held their secrets for centuries. Then came the rediscovery, revealing a wonder that continues to inspire awe. Tonight, let the quiet strength of Inca engineering soothe you. May the enduring spirit of Machu Picchu guide you into a deep and peaceful sleep. Rest now and dream of the gentle wisdom held within the ancient stones. Good night.